All right, so welcome to Night Hacking at the JavaZone Conference. My name's Stephen Chin. I'm doing interviews for the Oracle Technology Network. I'm joined by Klara Ward. How are you doing?
I'm good.
So how's your JavaZone experience been so far? You finished?
Yeah, it's
with
my
your
first time here.
Workshop and your talk. And is this your first time in Oslo?
This is my first time in Oslo, embarrassingly enough, because I grew up closer to Oslo than to Stockholm, where I now live. So
Wow. Okay. Because I think this is maybe my second time in Oslo, because I think did I come here before for the user group? Maybe. Okay. We're not remembering. But my first time at the JavaZone conference. But this is a pretty cool event. They have like an awesome pavilion here and lots of beer going around, and an awesome speaker event lined up. So it's a lot of fun. So we're going to chat a little bit about profiling, and you had an interesting angle on this, I think.
yeah, so I work with profiling professionally with the mission control tool and the flight recorder data from the JVM. And then recently I got this. So it's a fitness tracker.
Which company is that from?
Were you supposed to say that?
I don't know. Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, so the unspecified fitness tracker by some
I don't
corporate
mind,
entity.
but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, and then you had an analogy between fitness trackers and profiling.
Yeah, in my talk that I gave, I talked a bit about overhead and also about the accuracy of data. So I was thinking what this would look like with less or more overhead, and what you get when it's you have to sort of choose between the two a bit. For more overhead, you can get really, really accurate data, but maybe you don't want that. You just want it accurate enough. So I was picturing something that would give more accurate data than this, because this is...
Yeah, so how does that monitor you? It monitors like, it has an accelerometer in it, probably?
Yeah.
So it monitors your activity.
Yes.
Does it monitor heartbeat?
Not this version, but there are
they have
newer
ones which
versions.
do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it could.
So possibly heartbeat, but so I used to wear like one of those fitness trackers for a while, just for kicks. Although I hate having things on my wrists, which is why I don't anymore. But so I was one of the most active people in the world. I think I statistically broke all their metrics, because every time I would hop on my motorcycle, the vibrations from the engine would show up as steps. So in a given day, I could do like 30,000 steps. I was really good. So I guess that would be an example of poor data accuracy.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, so I was trying to picture what would actually be the contraption that would measure your steps, and it would be, I guess, some sort of exoskeleton thingy that you put on your legs, and it would actually measure your movements.
That could get stride length too, so you could actually figure out whether you're taking long steps or short steps, or possibly even calculate the amount of energy, calories you're burning precisely by your muscle movements. Yeah.
But it would totally affect what you actually do, though.
I'd buy one of those. Where can we pick one of those up? The exoskeleton heart rate walking monitor.
Well, if you get extra power from it, that would be nice. But otherwise, I'm not so sure. If you really want the exact number of steps.
What would be the opposite? What would be the most minimalistic tracker?
Yeah, I thought about that as well, but I'm sure this is not as minimalistic as they would go. I guess the ones that you put on your belt or something, they are more. You would be more okay with that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be on my wrist, but I think what I'd want is you know how they have the technology to like tag people, like you inject RFID tags. I'd want to inject an accelerometer into my
that would be nice.
Into various spots. You could actually have one at different locations, so you could actually track your movement on different limbs and
Yeah, kind of like those motion capture things
Exactly.
where they put you in a
I
suit
bet they have the
with dots
technology to make
on.
really tiny accelerometers now as well.
Yeah.
So you could probably create one small enough that you could inject it. Have a little battery built in, which would last for maybe like 5-10 years. So you'd only have to get an operation once in a while to get a new one put in.
Yeah, you would need an accelerometer, a battery, and some way to get the data out of it. So
Yeah.
I don't know how you would do that. But
Yeah, you could do something. Okay, I get the feeling that's not going to be a bestseller as well.
No.
Most people probably don't want to get body modification to simply tell how many steps they walk.
no.
So something
not
in the
just
middle.
for that.
Something in the middle is probably more appropriate. So it seems like industry is converging on either wristbands or watches for a way of people tracking their motion. So what does that tell us for profilers? What's the happy medium for profilers?
Well, what I thought about here is that I have two things on my wrist now, because this thing doesn't have a watch,
Yeah.
which just gives it more battery life. But so I have the watch as well, and I guess for profiling it might mean that you would want to put everything in one system and not. So this would be like profiling with flight recorder and also doing logging at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. That's kind of inefficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, having two things.
Or reading two different things at least. So yeah.
So speaking of flight recorder, I was chatting with one of the speakers here about so the little NES thing you were playing earlier.
Yeah.
So that was very difficult to optimize because while I was profiling the behavior, I was using a remote debugging session, a remote profiler. It also changed the characteristics of the application, and I think that's typical of a lot of profilers, where the instrumentation itself introduces overhead and such that you skew the results you're getting, and therefore you can't actually tune code, especially for micro benchmark type stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the guys here actually, he's like, oh, flight recorder, that would be a really good application because it's lower overhead for profiling than most other profiling tools, where you could actually get better data for doing the micro tuning.
I think it would work. So
You wanna help me?
You should try. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so but my goal is I had to overclock the Raspberry Pi to get 60 frames per second. So I'm running it at 1.15 gigahertz. But if I can get it down to a reasonable speed without overclocking, it would actually help with long-term reliability, because when you overclock it, it produces a lot more heat, and it's a confined case, so it gets up to like 65 Celsius, which I guess is
it felt pretty hot.
not too bad, but the threshold for those devices, I think they get up to 85 and then they stop malfunctioning. So I have a 20 Celsius barrier, but the hotter you run, the more likely it is to fail.
Oh.
Okay, so maybe we can improve on that
Be sure.
using Flight Recorder.
Cool.
Okay, so that's a good analogy. I think we learned something about profilers. Anything else you want to talk about or mention?
No.
No. Okay. So thanks very much for joining us for interviews at the JavaZone Conference. This is our last interview for today, but we're resuming tomorrow after my talk. So we have another 3 or 4 interviews lined up. You can watch the recordings at nighthacking.com. I'm going to post them all on the Java YouTube channel, and feel free to interact with us by tweeting to #nighthacking. So thanks a lot, Klara, and have a good evening. Drink lots of beer at JavaZone.